Well, howdy, folks. It's Mike again. I'm back, and we are going to do another in the Back to the Basics or Back to the Beginning, as I like to call it, series. This one is going to be on RS lines at new highs, and we're going to focus in on RS lines at new highs in specific, unique cases as well. But if you haven't figured it out, I'm a huge fan of the RS line. In fact, I think you could probably just trade with just the RS line and be better off than looking at candles, prices, certainly volume. We know that's dirty, don't we? And anything else, just the RS line, because you think about it, at its core, the RS line is all you really care about. Why is that? You're trying to buy something that's going to outperform your benchmark. In this case, the S&P 500. That's our benchmark that we use. If you want to use a different benchmark, man, more power to you. Go with it. You can change that in MarketSurge. But we like to use SPY or the S&P 500. And the RS line, you got to make sure you understand this, it's just a relative, it's nothing magical. It's just the relative performance of your stock or ETF versus the S&P. So if the line is going up, you're a leader. Line's going sideways, you're a market stock, as we like to call it. You're just going along with what the market is doing. If so, do you really want to take on extra risk? And if the RS line is going down, well, you're a laggard. Unless you're a bottom fisher or a bottom picker, we stay away from those. Your RS line tells you everything you need to know, more than the fundamentals, more than the general technicals, more than candles, more than the Webby RSI, more than my Bob Marley off high, like more than anything, the RS line really tells you everything if you listen to it. So we are going to focus in on the RS line at new highs. Is something I've been using since the late 90s. In fact, it was the first thing that I really started using. I've talked about this in some prior episodes, but we're going to keep this very, very short today. Why? Roosh is in town. Mr. Smiles is in town. And I've got to record a video because I'm traveling tomorrow and this is the only chance I can get. So this is going to be short because I want to go see my buddy because, man, that dude puts a smile on my face as much as he smiles constantly. I think even when he sleeps, he smiles. I'm pretty sure. But anyways, so we'll keep this brief and very basic, but we'll circle back and do more on RS lines because, as I said, the RS line is everything. But I just wanted to have something that was just very straightforward in how to use it. So we're going to focus in on just some screens on it today on how to find this, and we'll circle back and do some more of these episodes on a little bit more in depth on these. So let me share my screen. All right, so here we have the S&P 500, or in fact, if you pull up the S&P 500 this way instead of SPY, what you'll notice is you've got your RS line is flat. That is because it's being compared against itself. So you can look at it on a daily, or you can look at it on a weekly, or you can look at it a monthly. And this is just this one big line because that is your benchmark. If you wanted to change it to something else, you just go up to the wrench, put a relative strength lines, and then you could change it to something else. You can change it to the NASDAQ, the Dow, or you could put the group in there or a different symbol. This is stuff I designed a few decades ago, but I like to keep it, at least for this, at the just against the S&P 500. So again, if your stock is outperforming, then that line is going to have a general trend up. If it's underperforming, it's going to be a trend down. So a few ways of finding this in the list. One is on the RS line blue dot, and that's why I'm doing this episode, because that was something that Arusha used to be in charge of Market Smith before it was MarketSurge. And when he was adding stuff, the two of us were talking, but he ended up adding the RS line blue dot in there. And I honestly can't remember the conversation, but he said I was involved with it with him, which makes sense, but I don't remember everything. But I can tell you I've been using this since the late 90s in a way that I'll show you in a second. But let me tell you what this blue dot is all about, because it was a great idea that he had, or we had, or I had, or whatever, that it's using my pattern rec as well as the RS line, combining the two, basically saying if the stock is in a base that pattern rec identifies and the RS line hits a new high, it's going to show up in this blue dot list. Or if it's breaking out of a base on that pivot day and the RS line hits a new high, it's going to be in here and it's going to show up as a blue dot. You can get that to up here in the open ideas. You can go to, isn't there blue dots in here somewhere? Thought there were. I always get to it the other way. Oh yeah, RS line blue dot right here. So it's showing that there were 4 today, and you can just hit view, but I'm down the old school way over in the list under report, under technical, RS line blue dot, and then it shows here the time that it happened. So this is saying that, let's just sort by, rather than the number of times that it happened, just the event date with the most recent. So it's telling us this symbol VPG using a W, so a weekly, on a weekly base, that it hit the RS line was at new highs as it was breaking out of this ascending base there using the weekly patterns. Let's go down here to this daily. So this one, MYRG, is saying that on the daily, on the 17th, let's go here, that RS line, let's see, where's the 17th? That, yeah, it must have been, that's a little strange because it should have been there, because that was your breakout day. It couldn't have happened on the 17th. Must be something funky about that list there, because that's off. Let's do another one. Let's do another daily. Let's see if these are off or not. PINC. Oh, that's being bought out. Let's do another one with a daily. Most of these are on the weekly basis. Let's just, we'll skip that. Let's look at boot. Okay. So this is one that I was looking at the other day. So it's forming this pattern in here, little cup pattern, breaks out. And as it's breaking out, the RS line is at new highs. So we're just showing the blue dot, just a way to kind of highlight it and make it easy for people that are on the newer side of things. And so certainly if you're on the newer side of things, go ahead and use the blue dot because it's really cool, helpful. I use it, but I'm going to walk you through the way that is how I find these, because there's something more than, because pattern rec isn't perfect. And you also want to catch it if that RS line is new highs at other points. So I find the easiest way is to do some custom screening on it. But you know what? While we're in the reports, I'm going to show you one other place to look at these, because there's all sorts of ways of getting at this. Down a little bit lower is all RS line new highs. So not necessarily the blue dot. The blue dot is a subset. It has to be within a base or breaking out of a base. But this is just saying anytime a stock is hit, RS line has hit a new high, it'll show up here. And then you can click it by the date. Let's look at that. So AMD. So it hit it on the 21st, and it's saying that it's hit it 11 times during this window. So that's significant. In fact, you can always sort it just by this and just click on the ones that hit the new highs the most times. So let's click on, this thing is just ripping straight up, and you can see RS line, new high, new high, new high. So you always want to look at all of these stocks. You can just take this list and dump it into another list within MarketSurge and then do some filtering on there if you want to remove thin things or any particular groups. Maybe a lot of people don't like to trade biotechs. Nothing wrong with that. Let's look at IREN, because this is one that I had traded. And look at this monster. This is probably a good time to say, I am not an investment advisor. I'm not giving investment advice to anybody, even if your dog is watching, and I'm not giving it to your dog either. Your cat, no, not your cat either. I am just here to just help pass on what I've learned is an act of karma. So it's not investment advice. If you want investment advice, go get one. Go get an investment advisor. There's lots of them out there. So this one was hitting every time this stock was hitting that RS line, this green line on here was hitting a new high, it would show up in that report. And that's what's going to happen when a stock is a true leader. It is going to be hitting on that list on a very regular basis. So if you're really pressed for time, just sorting this by the number of times on here, and that's going to get you your best merchandise. Now, they don't go on forever. Here is this LIF. This was one that is had a huge run, a massive run. In fact, I was so bummed. I use their product all the time. These little tiles, and I didn't realize that's what it was for some reason. I thought Life, when I saw Life 360, I thought it was, I just didn't look further. I thought it was a gym or something like that. But these are very helpful. I had to buy some of these recently because someone broke mine on a trip. One of the baggage handlers, not cool, but I guess that's what I get for putting my tile on the outside. But this one is for your wallet. So you might want to get one of those. No, they don't pay me, but if they want to, they can. I also use AirTags because the Apple AirTags, there's benefits to each of them. And so if you research, I use both on anything that's valuable. The point is on this RS line kept hitting new highs, new highs, new highs. Then eventually it rolled over, and you can see it went through both the Quicksand and Grateful Dead. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should watch the Quicksand Grateful Dead Webby Rambles On episode. Can't recall which number it is, but it's probably the best one, the most important thing for you to watch, frankly. But stay with me. You can watch that later. That would be rude to stop watching. Don't be that guy or girl. Okay, so let's look at a few other ones. Okay, so this this one again, as it's running up, you can just imagine this has been showing up in this list time and time again. It is easier for higher ATR stocks to do that because if it's running faster than something and happens to be at a new highs, technically, it's just a lot easier for that to happen. It doesn't take anything away from the performance of the stock, but ATRs is something, average true range, that you want to use as part of your kind of money management aspect of things. But okay, so this is where you would find that. I would spend a lot of time in here. And again, you can go ahead and take this list, and let's just do it right now because I want to show you how I do things. So just go into favorites. I have a little placeholder here I just call dump here. And let's just delete everything that's out of there. I'm just going to highlight everything, take it, delete it. And now we're going to go back to this list, all RS lines. And let's just take the ones that have happened more than 10 times. I'm going to let's scroll on down. And of course, you could have dumped it into Excel too and manipulated it that way. But I know everyone doesn't use Excel. Some people are still using Lotus 123. Mike, if you're watching, that was for you. Okay, so we're going to put this in here. And we highlighted all those. We're copying them, put them over here into the dump here category. Then, so again, these are all the stocks that the RS line has hit a new high 10 times or more during that window, that look back period. I think it was like 45 days or something. So now let's just get rid of this stuff that's too thin. So we're going to delete things that are less than $25 million volume. Okay, so now we have 325. And let's just see if there's something else we can get rid of. Current price, if there's any cheapies in there. No cheapies. Okay, this is a good list. So let's just sort it by the most liquid. Or actually, you know what? Let's get rid of those high octane ones. So we're going to get rid of these. This is a 21-day ATR. Let's just get rid of the ones that are above 8. So that's 8% on a normal basis. In fact, you know what? Let's just get rid of everything that is greater than a 6, just so we can hone in on, there is AMD there. Let's do 7. Okay. Sorry, I normally do some prep before these to at least have my stuff together, but frankly, I've just been so busy uh, traveling and it's just way too much on my plate right now. All right. So now we've got it scaled down now to just 260 stocks, and let's sort this by let's see, by off high. So this is off its 52-week high, and let's just do the ones that are closest to their high right now. So RTX. Okay, RTX gapped up today on earnings, but you can see this RS line was hitting in new highs over here and hitting in new highs over here. So this is a way to, you don't just blindly go and buy something because the RS line is at a new high, but it's probably the best sign that I know that the market is telling you that this stock is a potential leader. So this is where this is a pond you're going to fish in, so to speak, but not necessarily just a buy list. Let's go to the next one. So to the BTSG, again, this RS line hitting new highs, hitting new highs, hitting new highs. Now it's extended in this position right here, so you can't buy it there. But then you toggle to the next one, RS line at new highs, at new highs, at new highs. This is where you would have wanted to buy it, right? Obviously on this day, let's see, July 3rd, where that would have looked, how that would have looked. So here, it had this little base here, you kind of doodle around, kind of like a little base on base type of thing. And you can see kind of breaking that general downtrend with that gap up in the RS line near new highs on that day. It doesn't look like it actually hit a new high that day. Let's see about the next day. So sometimes a little late. So that's where it hit it. So it wouldn't necessarily have picked up on it there. So it's not perfect, but you would have seen it if you were paying attention to this list. This whole way here, it would have been showing up. There, it would have been showing up. Here, it would have been showing up. So this is your best way of finding stocks, not necessarily actionable stocks, but stocks to put on your watch list. Let's go back to the current date. Let's see what we've got next. See if there's any stocks you want to talk about. What? I don't know that symbol. I'm sorry. It's hard to understand. Oh, okay, that one. Okay, you want to look at, let's see, AMD. That was the one that I wanted to look at. So here, this one was hitting, RS line was hitting new highs over here. And then again, here as it was going. Why isn't that working? Let me refresh this. Maybe it'll work there. So when it poked through there, we've had many days in here where your RS line is at new highs. So it's just a way of saying, hey, look at me. I'm a potential leader. Am I in position to be bought? And then that's the question you want to ask yourself. Now, the other place I wanted to show you is using the screener to find these. And that's what I was doing in the late 90s. And I talked about that in I think, my goals episode. I explained that a little in more detail, but I'm going to share with you some screens that I built for this that you guys can use. So it's very, very simple. The Webby's gold screen, I'll talk about why I call it gold. It's not searching for gold stocks here in a little bit. That the RS line at new highs, that's your first thing. And then it's saying on today, I'm recording this on October 21st, that the RS line was at new highs. And you just click this here, this little yes, no button. I like to exclude ETFs and closed-end funds unless I'm specifically looking for ETFs. Put a very low, that's why I call this one loosey for you deadheads, at $5 million volume. Look at that dollar there. That is a dollar volume, not share volume. I do not use share volume. Bill used share volume. If you're curious, Bill used 400,000 shares or higher. That was his threshold. He once told me, he called me up, Mike, I don't ever want to see you recommend a name that has less than 400,000 shares traded. Click. So He wasn't happy. That was Bill. So I removed anything, and I didn't want to argue with him, even though he knew my take on dollar volume being more important than share volume. He went with 400,000. I think that's kind of silly because it's you want to look at dollar volume, which is just the shares. Well, think of it this way. I always assume, sometimes I assume knowledge that maybe everyone isn't on the same page. If you're just looking at share volume, let's say 400,000, and you're looking at a $10 stock or a $500 stock, how is that relevant? How many shares it's traded, right? You want to know how many dollars are flowing through there every day. Something trading 400,000 shares that's at $10 versus 400,000 shares at $100. That's a significant difference in dollars that are flowing through. But what if it's $500 or $1,000? And the funny thing is after he did that, he traded his stock less than 400,000 shares. Um, and I think it was like Chipotle or something like that. And I just had to laugh. But here's the normal share volume if some reason you want to do that silly stuff. But then again, he was the billionaire, not me, and old habits die hard. So no offense was directed or meant. I'm just keeping it real. So here we've got the stocks that made it through. What is this screen telling us today? The stocks that had an RS line at new highs that weren't in ETF that traded at least over the last 50 days, at least $5 million on an average basis, and they're currently above $10. So there are 18 stocks there. Let's look at this and let's sort it by market and let's sort it by dollar volume so you can get a sense. So Intel is the biggest, and then this little one down here, AVTX, is the smallest. So let's just go through these real quick, or a few of them at least. So you're looking at this and saying, okay, Intel, something has changed here. That RS line is at new highs. Look at that monthly chart. Looks terrible with its history, but this gets it on your radar. Kind of just think like GE. When GE turned around, your RS line was hitting some new highs in that area very early on the move. So that's what you're trying to get, the next GE, type of turnaround type of situation. Intel is kind of similar. We don't know how it's going to play out. So let's go to the next one. But that was, news related. I think they're putting themselves for sale. SanDisk. So big liquid name that's been a real leader here as it broke out underneath 50 and has gone up to 150 in a blink of an eye. And all I can think of when I see that is I bought it in here and sold it, and there was never a reason to sell it. I'm just an idiot sometimes. What are you going to do? RTX, we looked at that. TEL, just kind of slow and pokey. This recent IPO, I've traded this off and on, but had earnings today. Good reaction. Let's go down to some of these thinner ones. So this one trades really super thin. And so this is too, I typically, for like swing trader, I won't put anything on unless it trades at least $75 million volume. For the IBD watch list that I do on a daily basis, if you take IBD Live, I create a watch list, both a universe list or a general watch list and a ready list, stocks that are in position to be bought. And those are my personal watch lists, and I share it with anyone who takes that. And I'm not trying to sell it. I don't get paid more. I do the show for free. It's just part of my gig. But that takes me about 3 hours, give or take, every day, sometimes more, to create those lists. And so you get it as part of that product. But this is one of the screens that I would be doing. But with that one, I keep it at least $25 million volume. Here's this drug, DRUG, and that RS line at new highs. So you get a sense for this one, a lot of thin things in there. Many times with these RS screens, they are going to be extended stocks. Now let's do a medium one. This is, all I've done here is raise the dollar volume up to $25 million volume and a $10 minimum threshold. Again, the other things were the same. So now you have fewer stocks, and this is something that I would be using every day. I just wanted to have that loose one in there just to show you. But this is the one that would, it's a subset of the last one. Now we're going to go to my original one that I did back in the 90s. And this was my favorite screen. This had a little twist on it. So I'm doing it a little different. Back then, I used share volume back then, and it was just anything with the traded 10,000 shares or higher is what I was doing. But now I've switched it. Times have changed, and I've changed. Song in there, and so $75 million volume. So this is what I would use for swing trader, and then a $20 price. I just raise that up to make it a little bit tighter. But what's unique here, and this is what I used back then, was RS line, or the RS line was at a new high, but before the price was at a new high. So here I put in on this price versus 52-week high. This is in the price criteria. So you go over here to price criteria. It's the second one down, and saying that the max it is 1% What that translates into is that it's at least 1% off of new highs. So let's just get rid of this and see what it gives us. So right now we have 3 stocks, then that goes to 9 stocks. And let's go to our off high to see where the difference would be. Where's our off high? Okay, right here. And oops, sorted that the wrong way. So these first few aren't going to show up because this screen is just trying to get them before they go into new high. So right there, RTX, this one was already in new highs by 1.28%. It's saying that here was our old high, closed 1.28% above that one. The BTSG that we looked at, again, at new highs because they're positive numbers. This VMI means it would close just at a new high, no higher, no lower. But really what I was after with these gold screens, or the gold screen, was something that's not at a new high, but the RS line is leading it, potentially leading it. It could just be extended and off its highs like the SanDisk is. But this is the one that will get the stocks as they're coming up the right side of the base, where the RS line is leading it into new high ground well before the price. Those are the ones that I wanted to get on. So these two aren't really, and you don't always have them. That's why it can be on the rare side. Again, it's kind of been a weird couple of weeks in the market, so the number of stocks that are making it through here are a lot fewer. But this is a technique for you to find these stocks. If you were running this, you would have found that when it was in around there. And again, the reason why, I'll just share with you the, once again, I got to share. God, I'm like 40 something episodes into it and I'm still learning. So the reason why I called it my gold screen was I felt when I came across this in the late 90s, I would run this on a regular basis, not regular, every single day. I would run this screen and I would print these charts off and I would take them at home. I would do a daily, weekly, monthly, and an intraday of every stock that made it through that screen, as well as some other screens. But this was my go-to screen. And it was so good. I got so much of the best merchandise that I would always say it was worth its weight. The screen was worth its weight in gold. And I kept it a secret back then because, no one cared what I thought, frankly. So I probably would have told people if they would have asked. But I didn't put a Post-it note on my forehead and say, run screens with the RS line at new highs before it's in price. But if you would have asked me, I would have told you. It's that good. And I've run it since then, 97 or 98, whenever it was when I started doing that. I'd print those charts off and then I'd see which ones were in position and I'd mark them up with a little ruler and a pen and be ready for the next day of, what stocks I was going to buy. And really keeping it that simple, like forget all the other noise. Like honestly, this is a way that you could trade if you're just technically bent. And you figure that the fundamentals will be showing up with the price anyways, that if I was only going to trade technicals, this is one of the ways that I would focus a lot of my time, just RS line, period. line moving averages with like the quicksand Grateful Dead, or just studying the RS line, or in this case RS line at new highs before the price. So again, you can get that through the RS line blue dot. You can run screens on it. I have screens in the growth 250 that use this, several of them that use this strategy to get them in there. Of course, that's just currently just done on the weekends, on a Friday that updates the growth 250. You should all be using that. I've put a lot of time and effort into that list. I use it every day. Or you could run the custom screens that I created, or you could do all of the above. But this is the way things, the cream rises to the top, and you've got to have blind faith about that one. That was a joke if you don't get the music. Anyways, that was it for today. I really wanted to keep it brief because I got to head downtown and see my good buddy, and I'm just so happy when people come to town and reach out to me. Nothing makes me happier than to see good people. Looking forward to going to see him. But I do want to just briefly mention I've done a lot of traveling over the last few weeks. I was in San Francisco, did a meetup group there. Was in Vegas, did the IBD Founders Club. Both great events. I think I've talked about those on other ones of these, but I just got back this weekend from Florida, from Fort Lauderdale. Matt and John were kind enough to invite me to their first annual Elevate conference. I was there with Jason Shapiro, and it was just a blast. It was so nice. I met so many nice people who flew in from all over. Some people were local in Florida, some people all around the country from New York, but we had people from London. We had a dude I was sitting by that was, from Hungary. It took him over 20 hours to get there. There were some people from Germany. The one really cool dude came, but they're all cool. But one cool dude came from Kuwait. And I was just so happy. He was wearing his like Kuwaiti garb. I'm sorry, bud, I forget what it was called. And he looked so comfortable. I'm like, hey, man, I wish I was wearing that. And he's going to send me some of it. So I'll wear that on one of these or on IBD Live or something. Just really, really kind people that said the nicest things. Like, God, I mean, I cannot tell you how much that warmed my heart and how much I needed that, frankly. I'm going through the worst time of my life, frankly, and I'm not going to get into it ever publicly or even privately, but honestly, my life is hell. It really put a smile on my face. So I was so happy, and I love going out and meeting people. So I'm going to be doing some Webby walks soon. So I'll announce that on probably on Twitter, most likely. Webster 1971. If you're not following me, I guess anyone who's listening is following me there. But in case you aren't, that is where we just go down to the Steve Ray Vaughan statue. Whoever wants to come, it's free, of course. And bring a dog if you want to bring kids. If they can handle adult conversation, stock conversations for an hour. Anyone's welcome. Everyone and anyone, as long as you're cool. If you're not cool, man, don't come. But if you're cool, you can come. And I love it. I just love meeting people. It distracts my mind. It's a really nice thing. And I did want to share, I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this. The John and Matt, I wasn't asking for anything to go to it. I just, went, because I like doing it. I like sharing stuff. And their presentations were great. Jason was cracking me up, man. Matt and John they were really good presenters. Matt's got his service you saw him on a prior Webby Rambles On, so I'd watch that if you haven't. Matt Caruso and John, I'll just call him Paco because Paco Robo. I think I just butchered your name, John. I'll always just call you John, or I got to get you a nickname. Did I give you a nickname? I got to think about that. But just the kindest people and super nice. And on the way out, they're like, hey, because I had to leave early. I didn't miss the fireside chat. I did a fireside chat as well as a quicksand Grateful Dead demonstration, but I had to leave on Sunday. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A beautiful hotel, really loved it, Pier 66. And with that in mind, on the way out, they were like, hey, before you leave, I know you have to head to the airport. Let us know. We just want to say, goodbye to you and thank you. And I said, thought nothing of it, of course, so let them know. And they're like, hey, let's just go up to the room real quick. And I wasn't sure why, and went up to their room and they got me this really wonderful gift that is, I'm calling it 66. I named some of my guitars and this one because it was at Pure 66. This beautiful. I told Matt once that I really wanted a thin line because I'm a huge fan of Johnny Lang, and I hadn't bought one yet. This beautiful, absolutely gorgeous thin line guitar, just as a nice, just thank you. Like I just, dude, who does that? I was like, it made me cry. Literally, I'm not even kidding. Just before I even saw the guitar, I was just so happy that someone would think to spend the time, let alone the money, to just give me such a thoughtful gift. Just wanted to thank them. I hope it's okay that I'm doing this because I don't know if they wanted to keep it private, but um, just thank you. I don't need anything from anyone. I really appreciate it. That it was a thought that meant so much. I've had people give me like little custom pens, and another gentleman, really cool dude, gave me like he's a woodworker and he gave me a little like bowl, and I keep all my jewelry and stuff in there at night. But, it's like just thoughtful, just really appreciated it. So anyways, that was just my way of, I always ask at the end of this for folks to be kind and pay it forward, because that is the tuition for these. I don't charge anything, but I do charge you guys, you're on the honor system of going and doing something kind for folks, or an animal or an insect. You are going to step on a cricket. Instead of stepping on it, just take a cup, put it over top of it, put something underneath it, and just take it outside. It doesn't want to die. Like, why? Like, it's not necessary if you can avoid it, or, help an old lady or an old dude out with their groceries or something, just don't let them think you're going to steal them or something, by accident, because some people aren't used to kindness. So just go out there and do something kind, because it can really help a person out. And again, all the nice things that people said in San Francisco and in Vegas and Florida really went a long way. So I appreciate it. And I think that's it, because I got to go. Peace out.